Hello everyone, my name is John, I'm the Geeky Fanboy, and welcome back to Baker Street Reviews, the series where I watch and review all kinds of different Sherlock Holmes adaptations. And this time we are watching another international adaptation because I did some searching around the internet the other day looking for new adaptations, and I was really in the mood for something non-English speaking, something more international, since a while ago I finished watching Miss Sherlock, which I quite enjoyed. It was a Japanese HBO series, modern day. I liked that one a lot. And since then I've been on the lookout for other international shows or films. And I did a bit of research and I came across an article, link in the description, by Book Riot, and they made like a list of international Sherlock Holmes adaptations, and I came across a Russian adaptation or Soviet adaptation called My Dearly Beloved Detective. And I'm just going to read you the blurb real quick so you get an idea of what we're doing here, because this is what really got me into doing this as an adaptation video. This adaptation dares to ask the question, what if Sherlock Holmes really didn't exist? What if he was just a literary character that two women, Sherlock Holmes and Jane Watson, exploit by running their own detective agency at 221B Baker Street? This quirky 1986 film features musical numbers out of nowhere, cross-dressing, and a police inspector who hates Holmes so much that he's willing to destroy his own life to derail her career. I mean, we got musicals, cross-dressing, women playing Holmes and Watson. I'm here for all of that. Because, I mean, how could I not be? Like, this is really just like the simple short description, and I immediately was like, okay, this sounds amazing. There isn't really much more there. Like, if I look at the Wikipedia page, like I said, the movie is from Russia. It was made at a time when the Soviet Union was still in place, so it's a Soviet movie, theoretically. It was made in 1986. It's rather short, it's around 80 minutes long. It's a screenplay by G. Gorin and R. Kite, and whose producer Alexei Simonov. I'm not sure if any of these people were famous at the time. I have no idea. Who do we have for Holmes and Watson? So Holmes and Watson are women in this, as we've heard. In this case, we have Shirley Holmes, who is played by Yekaterina Vasilyeva, and we have Jane Watson, who is played by Galina Shepetnova. I had Russian for like 3 years, but it's been a while, so I'm apologizing for my absolutely horrendous pronunciation of these names. We have Valentin Graft as Inspector Lester, it says here. So I'm assuming that's kind of a variation on Lestrade. And looking at some of the other characters that are named here, I don't think there are any other canon-inspired characters. There is one called Mary. We'll see if that has anything to do with maybe Mary Morstan. We'll see. Apart from that, that's basically it. It says the film is more of like a comedy, a parody. So I'm assuming that there's maybe a bit of a spoof, you know, a bit like Without a Clue, maybe that kind of genre that makes fun or picks fun at like the typical Sherlock Holmes archetypes or Sherlock Holmes stories, but without making it too ridiculous, you know, sort of like a fun homage where you're like, okay, we're making fun of this, but we're also kind of like the characters. I'm assuming that's maybe kind of what we're getting into. I guess we'll see what we're getting into. I did find the film on YouTube, so in case you want to watch it for yourself, I'll leave a link to the video down in the description. It's going to be in Russian, but with English subtitles, which is personally how I prefer it anyway. I'm always trying to watch international productions in the original language. But in case you're not really that much of a subtitles fan, that's your warning. So yeah, that's it, and now it's time for the viewing. Let's get into it. Oh, that's cute. I like the little like zooming around the map so you're familiar with London and everything that's going on.
Неужели вы не были в Лондоне, сэр? Быть не может. Наверное, вы просто забыли.
It feels a bit like you're watching theatre. This is like the first introduction you get, like similar to the beginning of a Shakespeare play. I like it. It sets the scene.
Начало века, Ее Величество Королева, Артур Конан Дойль, Шерлок Холмс, доктор. Впрочем, все они к нашей истории никакого отношения.
Immediately dismiss all of the characters and authors we know about.
О любви.
Знаменитого сыщика Шерлока Холмса.
Это совсем просто. Там на стене вы увидите табличку.
Благодарю вас, сэр.
Желаю удачи. Но вообще-то я леди, сэр.
О,
There's a bit of subtle comedy already. I like that. So we already have a very classic setup here. I think with a bit of subtle humor. I like, you know, this classic Victorian image of London. You know, the fog descending. You can't even really see each other, which I think they kind of play with here. It's funny. Mistaking the woman for a man, you know, sort of classical school humor, you know how it is. But I like that it sort of starts off with this very classic setup, you know, it's a client looking for Holmes at Baker Street. And I mean, you can never go wrong with that, so I like it. And I do like the little silhouettes here of Holmes and Watson, again, playing with these stereotypical images that we have of the two men, and now this is probably gonna get, like this idea is gonna get broken down.
это мистер Шерлок Холмс.
Совершенно верно.
А этот второй...
Это доктор Ватсон, сэр.
Да, именно так я себе их представлял.
Я очень рад, сэр,
Да.
что у вас такое богатое воображение.
Okay, the butler's clearly in on it.
Следует обратить особое внимание на трубки.
I like that we get the narration of what Baker Street is and what everything means, sort of discovering it along with the client who's looking around Baker Street while he's waiting for Holmes. I like it, sort of gives us an opportunity to discover this with ourselves. And see, Doyle is even, okay, I think that's interesting. So Doyle himself is a creation, or is an author with a creation in this universe. So, let's move back for a second. What does it say? The collection of Conan Doyle's stories in 44 volumes with the author's autograph. So maybe it's a bit like in BBC Sherlock, where I think Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is also still a writer that exists, but maybe he's a writer who has either written something else that he's famous for in this universe, or they're going for that Conan Doyle is like a pseudonym that the two women used to publish their stories about Holmes and Watson. I could see that working, but I always think it's kind of a neat and fun little idea to have Sir Arthur Conan Doyle still be real within the fictional universe of the Sherlock Holmes adaptation. Okay, so nice. We see Holmes' disguise kits, how he's dressing up, along with like reference pictures and pictures of criminals that he might have hunted in the past. I like how it feels cluttered and how you do very much find things that you would expect to find at Baker Street.
Хотя многие посетители упорно пытаются это делать.
Боюсь, что она не подойдет вам, сэр.
Ah, here we go.
Мне нужен мистер Шерлок Холмс.
I like how they're building up her reveal, that you can't see her yet until she, yeah, there you go. Until she sort of, yeah, until she makes that statement and you realize it's her.
Это литературный персонаж. Его придумал писатель Артур Конан Дойль.
Okay, so Arthur Conan Doyle did invent Holmes in this universe.
Сотни людей приходят сюда, на Бейкер-стрит, за помощью. Так хочется думать, что есть человек, который поможет в трудную минуту. Вот почему в этом доме было решено открыть частное сыскное агентство. Холмс – моя настоящая фамилия. Поэтому из многих претендентов выбрали именно меня.
Ah,
У людей
okay.
есть доверие к этому имени.
I kind of like that because they play with real life things that have happened, that people would actually try to like write to Baker Street, even though the address 221B didn't exist in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's time. I think Baker Street only was at like up to number 100 or something. Like 221 wasn't an address in Victorian times. You could find in London. But especially like also once the museum was established and everything, like people would write to Sherlock Holmes and address him and thinking that he was real. Like people up to this day, people very much like to imagine that Sherlock Holmes is real, that he lives there, and they would write letters to him, address him, and ask him for help. That is very much a thing that has happened, and I'm assuming is still happening to this very day. People writing to his address, and it's the museum collecting all of these letters. And I think even when you go to the museum, you can find that it's like a pin-up board or something, like a board where they put up some of these letters and notes the fans have sent there, or people have sent there thinking they are writing to Sherlock Holmes, or pretending they are writing to Sherlock Holmes. So I kind of like that they're picking up this idea that was very much real, or is very much real, and sort of construct this this narrative around that they would establish an actual detective agency there, because people like to believe that Sherlock Holmes is real and they need someone. So I like that. I think it's cute.
Свое дело. Это, извините, мисс...
Oi!
Не овсянку варить.
Don't under sexism, my dude.
Стоило ли вставать в 3 часа ночи? Ехать сюда из Диваншира? Мерзнуть и открытым
Yes, and now pulling classic Holmes, stitching out all the deductions.
В половине 4. Только в темноте человек способен надеть 2 разных башмака.
Ой.
You always gotta love a classic Holmes opening. Deduction, questioning, explanation. Classic. Always good. Is this...
Моя подруга и ассистент, мисс Ватсон.
Watson, here we go. Watson looks cute. I like her outfit. Tie.
Такого не пил.
Наверное, с тех пор, как вас покинула ваша супруга.
Вы это знаете.
Ну, это очень просто. У вас кольцо на правой руке. Одной пуговицы уже нет, вторая держится на ниточке.
О, мы могли вам ее пришить.
Да ну что вы, это как-то неловко. Впрочем, если это вас не затруднит.
О, нисколько.
Пожалуйста.
Мистер Грин,
Да, мисс?
решайте пуговицу нашему гостю.
Слушаю, мисс.
Пожалуйста.
Благодарю.
Мы вас внимательно слушаем, сэр.
Okay, I like it. I'm really liking the atmosphere so far, how it feels like this is very much day-to-day business. You know, this is something I also mentioned in A Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, that I like when you see how day-to-day life just seems to work. I like this when it flows, when it doesn't feel stagnant. You can really see how, you know, Holmes and Watson are used to this. They got their routine. Watson is being real nice and hospitable, making some jokes. Holmes is on the case, thinking about all that stuff already, but also, you know, still able to like engage with the butler and everything. I just like the flow we're getting so far. You really feel like, okay, this is something they've done like a bunch of times now. They're used to it. They know what they're doing, and it just feels comfortable. I like that.
Кстати, Джейн, колечко из темно-зеленого малахита очень подошло бы к вашему бирюзовому платью.
А где вы видели это колечко?
У ювелира за углом.
А я не ношу больше это платье.
Да? Вам надоели ваши буфики?
Мне надоели ваши шпильки.
It's cute, like nice little in-between interaction where you just get the feeling, okay, they know each other, they've been doing this, they're friends, they're on it.
Вы хотите сказать, что способны на воровство?
Okay, so the case so far is this guy and his twin brother, along with their sister, have recently like inherited a very valuable ring, and the ring has gone missing. Like Mr. Bull and his twin brother fell asleep after a night of drinking, and someone grabbed the ring, and he thinks he saw someone with his own face, meaning he doesn't know if, you know, in a drunken state, either his brother took the ring or he himself took the ring. And this is what they're trying to find out now, so that's the case so far.
Он. О! ты проклят!
Is that it already? Did they find it already? Just in like the pocket of his jacket.
Я вор.
Ваш брат, благодарю вас, зная вашу склонность к спиртному
Так.
и доверчивый характер, надевает такой же костюм, подпаивает вас и гасит свечу. Далее он заходит к вам за спину, мистер Грин, и крадет перстень так, чтобы вы видели это в зеркале. Таким образом, преступление совершает он, а вы в зеркале видите себя. Благодарю вас, мистер Грин.
I love this little reenactment they just did on the spot and everyone is in on it. I love it. It's such a great just like little detail and flows wonderfully. Okay, so the ring has been found. It has been stolen by the brother, but it's just a piece of glass, and the valuer who, well, valued it, you know what I mean, is a fraud. It's just a piece of glass, and now they're gonna go to Devonshire and try to find the real jewel, and put the fake man behind bars, hopefully. So that's the setup so far. I feel like another musical number is happening.
Слушаю вас, господин министр.
Эта дамочка опять выставила нас на посмешище. Она поймала Джона Хавера, за которым вы охотились 5 лет.
Oh,
Ей фатально везет.
so did Holmes already catch
Предупреждаю вас, Лестер, что
catch
если
the
ей
the
повезет
fake
еще
jewels
раз,
guy?
это будет действительно.
It's this Lestrade's intro song. That's wonderful. I want all of the characters to get like little musical intro songs.
У женщины всегда сложно.
Everyone turn down the casual
Она не
sexism.
женщина, а конкурент. Дальше.
Да? Нет замужем. Спросить меня, почему?
Ну, почему?
Не знаю.
Because we all know Holmeses, we know the Holmeses
Знакомство.
are just not into people that way, maybe.
Но не перестал быть
So,
джентльменом.
who needs to get married, right?
Документ.
У вас есть сигара?
Да, сэр.
Тогда закурите. Я просил.
Again, I love the little bits of humor in this. These lads just be having fun. These lads just be having fun.
Помяните мое слово. Кончится тем, что Британией будет управлять премьер-министр в юбке.
Considering that this was made in the 80s, and you know, just think about 80s UK Prime Minister, I can't help but wonder, is this a dig at, you know, UK politicians or politics? You know, maybe I could kind of see it, but and again, turn it down with the casual sexism. I know it's the 80s, but come on. Although it would actually be kind of cool if I'm guessing the movie is maybe sort of trying to go for that Lestrade or Lester. It's all like, women can't do this, why is she so good at this, we've got to take her out, and the movie's like, well, the woman's better than you, and you gotta take it. Okay, it's the Spanish Inquisition coming, who's this?
Робби Саммерс сделал мне предложение.
Вы свободны, мистер Грин.
I feel like Mr. Green is the MVP of this movie.
Вы свободны, мистер Грин. Не очень выгодная партия, Джейн. Во-первых, он картежник. Заметили утолщение на указательном и большом пальцах?
Oh, Holmes, don't ruin the boyfriends again for Watson.
Вам розы, мисс.
Bush just flies into the corridor. It's roses for you, man.
Тут даже дедуктивный метод не нужен. Он думает, что...
Oh God. So the Torero is in love with
Если
Holmes.
существует на свете мужчина, который по-настоящему меня волнует, так это Шерлок Холмс и только он.
What even is this? I mean, I love how wacky it is, but what the hell, my dudes? What the hell?
Что он такое говорит?
Что они все говорят? Что я для него свет зари, сияние звезд, всякую чушь. Так, все, хватит, идите, Ватсон.
I love how this implies that she's been in this kind of situation maybe multiple times. It's like, oh, that's what they always say. You know what it's like. Oh my god.
Что вчера вечером вы были у мистера Лестера? Дома? Нет, мисс, она видела вас собственными глазами и слышала, как вы играли на скрипке. Но я действительно взволнован. Не случилось с моим шефом беды. У меня нехорошие предчувствия.
I'm assuming they're trying to set her up, right? Because they don't like her. It's such weird little funny moments, but I like them.
А вчера, мисс Холмс, когда вы приходили к мистеру Лестеру...
Вы уверены, что это была...
Oh, did you catch that? Hang on, did you catch that? Nice little reference! It's the Hercule Poirot, nice! I'm always appreciating a good Poirot reference, because he's the second best detective after Sherlock Holmes, obviously. But nice, it's cute, I like it.
Это сказал один из тех двух мужчин.
Каких мужчин?
I really like her outfit, you can see here. Just like, because I've been sort of paying attention to this scene. I really like the contrast in the outfits between Holmes and Watson. Because Holmes dresses in a slightly more, you could argue stereotypically like manly style, like with the tie and the white shirt and the more like straight line, long grey coat, but still with a nice little hat. Like it's still feminine, but it leans slightly more into like a slight cross-dressing vibe, which I think goes along with her characteristics, you know. And then on the other side we have Watson, who's dressed up in a more stereotypically feminine style, especially also like in colour. It's sort of like red, pinkish, bit more, you know, details and stereotypically feminine, which I think also goes along with her characteristics a bit more. So I do like the contrast here, but that also the costumes also complement the personalities of the characters. Okay, so now we're in Lester's office, or Lestrade's office, where Shirley apparently has been yesterday, but clearly she wasn't. So what's going on here? Again with like the two pictures up on the wall, nice, a bit of a parallel here in the set design.
Это ваши фотографии, Шерли. Ничего не понимаю. Но это же очевидно, Шерли. Инспектор Лестер вас влюблен.
Oh, that would be quite the twist. That would honestly be quite the twist.
Ну иначе зачем хранить ваш... Вы угадали, Шерли? Он...
Oh, Watson.
И все вечера проводит в мужском клубе. Смотрите, эта красная кошка сбежала.
I just love the chemistry between these two characters. It works wonderfully. Oh no, the Spaniard is back.
Настоящий джентльмен всегда пропускает даму вперед, даже в камеру.
So Lestrade is just in hiding because he wants to get Shirley. He just wants to get her cancelled or something. I don't know. He just doesn't like her. Also, it certainly is kind of interesting to paint Lestrade or Lester as more of an antagonist for a Sherlock Holmes adaptation.
Не считайте меня дураком, миссис Эктон. Фунт как минимум вы получили с мисс Холмс за осмотр моей квартиры. А теперь лучше вам исчезнуть.
Lestrade isn't dumb. I like that.
Мой труп уже нашли в Темзе?
К сожалению, нет, сэр. Утопленник в основном попадается мелкий, щуплый. Очевидно, не сезон.
It's not the season for finding corpses, you know.
Какие-нибудь косвенные.
Ничего, мы здесь ходим, Шерли.
Спокойно.
Oh, yes, here's the cross-dressing, and they look fabulous. I love it.
Рано или поздно Лестер должен прийти.
Сколько лет под гнетом женщин вместе на
They really be doubling down on the sexism in this, don't they? The men really have a problem in this.
Сообщили только что. Эти благородные стены тайком проникли.
Did they discover their secret already? Or maybe they're gonna try and get someone else.
Что, сэр?
Вы джентльмен.
Come on, Watson, you can pull this off.
А вы джентльмен, чтобы задавать такие бестактные вопросы.
Сэр, не задерживайте проверку, я жду.
Господа, оставьте юношу в покое.
Oh, who's saving the day?
Я не джентльмен.
That's an appropriate reaction.
Меня спроси. Я женщина.
Вы? Это...
Эскола.
I'm sorry?
Приклеенный. Аранка.
I'm kind of appreciating how random men are saving the day here for seemingly not a real reason yet, except for the Spaniard, because he clearly likes Holmes and is maybe in on it, but, you know.
Я показывала вам, как ходит мужчина сгорблен позвоночник, осанка гориллы.
Этому я никогда не научусь.
But I kind of like that Holmes tries to teach Watson here. I think it's cute. Yeah, like teaching Watson to become a detective. I really like that, because I always appreciated when Holmes sort of teaches Watson. Watson is learning from Holmes on the way.
Смейте так говорить. И вообще, мистер Холмс, давно хотела вам сказать, то, что я служу в вашем агентстве, не дает вам права распоряжаться моей личной жизнью.
I'm liking the personal agency here that Watson takes. I kind of like it, because Watson does get roped in on Holmes's plans a lot. Sometimes also, or a lot of times involuntarily so, or without knowing the whole plan. And I kind of like that Watson here is taking a stand, being like, no, I do like you, and I do want to help you, but there is a point where I'm just not comfortable with some things. And I do want, like, just like that Watson takes a stand for herself here in this case. Because I always appreciated when Watson is like his own, or in this case her own character, and has some individuality and is willing to take a stand against Holmes and speak out and make sure, no, I'm my own person. I do like you, but there are some personal lines that are being drawn. So I kind of appreciate this here.
Когда вернется Робби, передайте ему, что звонила Джейн Ватсон, и что она согласна выйти за него замуж.
Okay, that's a quick heel turn there to immediately go back to Robbie and marry him, but I'm kind of getting what they're driving at.
Ребята очень просили праздновать победу, так праздновать.
Okay, so they basically want to make it look like Lester was murdered by a jealous woman, because he was apparently secretly in love with Shirley, and then got killed for it, and Shirley would make the announcement to the press and say she doesn't know, and would be embarrassed about Lester being in love with her, and then Lester makes a comeback and is like, oh, I wasn't actually dead, I was just out for a fishing trip. And this is why women shouldn't be detectives, because they're bad at it, apparently. So that's more or less the plan. Then he makes his escape on a white horse, which, again, is the best part of the plan, if you ask me.
Весь Скотланд-Ярд роет яму двум доверчивым женщинам. Вам не стыдно, Бикс?
Сэр, но это была ваша идея.
It was your idea. Are you getting second thoughts now? So, I get the feeling he maybe is actually a bit in love with Holmes. He just doesn't want to admit it.
Вы что-то забыли?
Oh, the Spaniard.
А лучше расскажите, кто вас заставил ломать эту комедию?
Holmes already is already seeing through everything.
Я сочувствую. Но взываю к вашей совести. Скотланд-Ярд затеял с нами недостойную игру. Миссис, простите, я не знаю вашего имени. Я обращаюсь к вам как женщина к женщине. Сейчас мы спустимся вниз, и вы расскажете все репортерам. Любовь к мужу благородное чувство, а любовь к истине выше. Вы замужем?
I like it because in a way this is very similar to what Holmes in the books does a lot of the time as well. That he is there to deliver justice and to solve the case, but he's not unhuman. He also listens to the stories of the people and is at times willing to forgive them or not hand them over to the police because he understands why they're doing the things they do. And instead he's appealing to their conscience and says, I understand why you did this, but don't ever do it again. And do this to atone yourself. And I will not hand you over to the police. Like, there's always a sense of understanding from Holmes that he's, under certain circumstances, willing to make a deal, or that he's willing to understand the criminals he has to deal with. So I like this here, that Holmes appeals to her as a woman, from woman to woman, like she says. And she's able to understand her and says, I understand your situation, but also you as a woman should, you know, get what they're trying to do to me also as a woman, so please help me here and I'm going to help you. So I like this here. It's a nice addition. Oh, the Spaniards abduct Lester. So in a way, it's kind of like the story that Lester set up for Holmes, but now the other way around. That someone who is also jealous but in love with Holmes kidnaps Lester because he thinks he's also in love with Holmes. Oh god. What's happening now? I like that Holmes isn't used to walking in heels. Hey, we are riding away in a white horse maybe at the end.
Выехать на белом коне. Итак, леди и джентльмены, наша история подходит к концу.
Hang on, what?
По традиции,
you can't tell me this is the ending.
Фильмы принято кончать любовным связью.
What is happening?
Поскольку у нас.
Oh, so he is in prison.
Разговаривать надо на понятном языке.
Да, но он испанец.
Тогда я позову переводчика.
Okay, so they did get him into prison after all that, and Holmes is now visiting him.
То, что вы сделали с Лестером, это жестоко.
Но он поступил еще хуже. В Испании говорят, можно прикидываться умным, можно прикидываться добрым, но прикидываться влюбленным? Нет, это тяжкий грех. На воле ты не хотела меня видеть, а сюда ты все-таки пришла.
Это глупо.
This was... I didn't really have a lot to say during the conversation because that was surprisingly sweet. So she comes to visit him, and I like how they sort of contrast him and his behaviour, what he attempts to do. They contrast this with what Lester has done throughout the film. To sort of be like, this is what happens when you're loved, this is what men do. But that he wasn't there to make her look ridiculous. He wanted her to be seen as the woman she is, that she deserves all the praise and that she is a good detective, and he couldn't bear seeing other people make fun of that. I kind of like the sentiment here, and how they're contrasting this. It comes a bit out of nowhere, and it feels a bit weird how they wrap it up now at the end, but still, in a way, it has a surprisingly nice, sweet undertone. And again, you can see how Holmes, even though she might not reciprocate his feelings, again, is sort of very appreciative and understanding of what is happening here, and is willing to listen to him and give him his moment. And you could, if you want to see it that way, you could interpret it as her maybe having some kind of feelings for him. But it's open for interpretation, I would argue. But I think it's a nice little sentiment here at the end with this conversation. See, they're still friends. They're able to laugh together. Flowers. That's nice. Again, I really like the chemistry between the two women. Oh, I like how they give it an emotional touch here. Sort of seeing Watson now married and given the flowers after what she's been through. I like it. I like it we get to see like Holmes being vulnerable, because we don't get that often enough.
Это абсолютно случайная встреча.
Если не возражаете, я вас провожу.
Буду вам очень признательна.
Nice. Again, so you kind of see that Lester actually likes her, doesn't want to admit it. And he got really upset because he quit smoking. I mean, quitting smoking for a long time does things to you, but... Aww, I was kind of hoping that she would say yes.
Заняться староиспанским языком. Мне нужно познакомиться с поэтом.
I'll see what she does want to understand her Spanish friend a bit better.
Должен быть один. Особенно в тумане.
I don't know why, but I really kind of like this. With them together here at the end. It's nice. Okay. It's the ending. Credits are rolling. It's Lester and Holmes here together at the end. It's a very cute, sentimental little ending. So yeah. Oh. I'm just kind of enjoying the last little bits here, but yeah, that's it for the movie, and let's jump straight to the review. And welcome back. So that was my dearly beloved detective, a very fun and interesting movie, I think. I like how it's kind of goofy and wacky and weird, but not too weird. It knows what it's doing. Some of the stuff feels very random, like the musical numbers and stuff like that, but I don't know, it kind of flows and goes with the vibe of the whole movie itself. I like how it's not taking itself too seriously, but seriously enough in certain scenes where you see where the character work is shining through and where the story takes place. And I don't know, I just generally really like it, that it works as a sort of comedy parody film, but still works as a homage to the original stories. Like it doesn't feel like it's making fun of Holmes and Watson and the stories, but more like it's using that to poke fun at some of the characteristics of the characters, or to just sort of deconstruct this idea of the famous detective that we have. I like it because that's how you do parody. You don't necessarily just like replicate or make fun of the thing. You use the thing you have and sort of pay homage to it, point at some mistakes, but still play with it. And I like that. So in general, I think it flows rather nicely. We have sort of this early on introduction, this classic introduction with a client coming to Baker Street, having a case that needs solving. Holmes does classic deduction stuff. We get a bit of domestic vibes from Baker Street, from the duo. Case is solved, and then the whole other story starts at actually like the meat of the movie. It's a very classic Sherlock Holmes setup. I like it because it gives us an introduction to the character, immediately to this whole shtick that's going on in the movie with that Sherlock Holmes is not actually a character, but it's two women who came up with this detective agency. It's a nice little introduction, shows us who Holmes is, who Watson is. They're still very similar to the characters we know from the books, but that some things are different, and introduces us to the shtick that they're women now. And then it leans straight into the actual story of the movie, which I think is kind of interesting because it portrays Lestrade, in this case, as more of the antagonist, as more of the villain. Because you can tell that in the original stories, Lestrade is sometimes a bit frustrated about Holmes solving all the cases, even though in many cases, or most of the cases, Lestrade does get the credit, because Holmes is like, I'm not about the credit, Lestrade takes the credit, I just solved the case, because that's not what Holmes is on about. But I like that it's sort of picking up this this idea that you do kind of find in the canon that Lestrade is a bit frustrated that Holmes is so much better at this than he is. And they combine this here with a very strong gender theme, which I think is interesting considering also the time when this was made. And you could very much, I think, interpret this in modern day ways as well. You see a man who feels inferior to a woman just because she is better at a job that typically men do, or that even a manly character has been created for, and now there's a woman, two women actually, who are much better at this than he is, and he's so frustrated about this. Maybe also because, as we also see towards the end, he doesn't want to admit to himself that maybe he actually kind of likes her, that he likes that she is so good at this, and this is what he finds appealing about her, maybe even attractive, but he doesn't want to admit this. And I know here at the end he sort of says, you know, I quit smoking, it made me think bad things, this is why I did this. Which, you know, it's sort of like a clutch to explain this, but I sort of like it because this is a theme that runs through the whole movie with, you know, this very manly Victorian society, as we also see like in the Gentleman's Club. It's all about the men and their position in the world and their superior gender, and that women can't do this, or how dare they infiltrate our space, or how dare they be in a job that's typically meant for men and then they're better at it. Like a woman should not be a detective, that's not her place to be, even though she is evidently better at it than they are. So I kind of like it because the movie does side, I would argue, with the women for most of it, where they're like, okay, we show how over the top and exaggerate this sexism is from the society from the men's society side, how over the top and can't take this. And then we have Holmes and Watson down the other, especially Holmes, who's more like, I don't care, I just want to do my job. It's absolutely ridiculous what all of these other people are thinking, or what men do in the name of women or in the name of love, which is also another theme that runs through the film, which is kind of interesting. And I like that Lester at the end comes around, that he's like, what I did was wrong, I just didn't want to admit that you're better at this than I am, and I actually kind of like you, so I think we should hang out more. I like that there's a turnaround at the end, that this is basically just showing that Lester falls into this trap of the society that he's in, of this very patriarchal society, and acts like this plan, but throughout kind of realize maybe this is not, like towards the end realize maybe this is not really what I'm supposed to be doing, this is probably not the most appropriate thing to do. And then you see him come around at the end being like, you know what, screw all of that, through all the societal bullshit, I like you and you're good at this, and what I did was nonsense, and people shouldn't discard you just because you're a woman in a man's job. So I like that, and especially also together with this theme of, you know, what men are doing in the name of love, or what men are doing for women. This is something that occurs throughout the film as well. Since, you know, we see Watson's fiance giving up his position in the Gentleman's Club to save Watson. Clearly a position he liked having, but then he gives it up for a woman to protect her. We see that, in a way, Lestrade did all of this for Holmes, in a way, at first for being like taking revenge and taking her down, but then you sort of see that he maybe also did it because he didn't want to admit that he liked her in a way. And then of course you have this whole thing with the Spaniard, where this story of jealousy gets picked up for real, and he's like, no, I did this because he doesn't appreciate you, he pretends to be in love but isn't, but I'm in love with you. This is why I'm doing this for you, because you deserve the position you have. So sort of like different portrayals of love and what men, especially men, do for love in these instances, which I think you can put on a lot of different twists and turns in there. You can, like, different interpretations of what motivates each of these men and what they're doing and how love motivates these men. Like, I think there are some very interesting, like, gender and sexuality themes and societal themes running through this film that, especially if like considering this is a film like in the 80s, from the 80s, I think it's very interesting. Also because you see this contrast in gender, like I also mentioned, between Holmes and Watson, that Holmes is sort of more like a tomboy and dresses in a more manly fashion, and is what we are used to from Holmes, more this cold and detached way, not very emotional, which especially in a woman traditionally reads as not very feminine. Contrasted with Watson, who is also sort of like picking up this whole detective shtick, but is very much more open and emotional about who she is and what she wants. And like, as we saw when she takes a stand against Holmes, when she's like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm a woman. I like being a woman. I want to express myself, and I want to be with this man because I do like him, and he gave himself up to help me. So this is what I'm doing. So it sort of portrays two different ideas of femininity, you could argue, and neither of them is better than the other, I would say. Because you see them at the end, they're happy. They're both happy in their respective positions, and they're still friends, even though they fought in the middle of the movie. And I like that the movie shows these contrasts. Also, like I said, in the outfits and the design, how Holmes feels more stereotypically tomboyish in her outfit, and Watson is more outright feminine, like classic femininity. But they work, but neither, like I said, neither of them is better or worse than the other, and they still work well together. Maybe also because they sort of they contrast each other, and they complement each other, because they are different sides, two different sides of the same coin. So I like the whole theming and set design. I feel like there is a lot more in here than you would expect from like a parody or comedy movie. Because again, yes, it is ridiculous, but I feel like there's also a lot of thought put into this, and I do also just appreciate this as a general Sherlock Holmes interpretation and adaptation. Like I said, you do get the classic characteristics in the Holmes character, you know, cold, detached, doing all of the deducing, sort of being careful of emotional attachment, and I like it. I think they balance it pretty well, sort of the classic Holmes ideals and characteristics, but also like sort of combining it with this idea of femininity, like I said. And I think the actress did a wonderful job. I like the energy she brought to the role, and I really, really like her chemistry with the Watson actress. I think this worked really well, like I also mentioned during the commentary. I just like how their chemistry flows, how they're really in it, how it feels like they've been doing this for years. I love it because this is how a Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson dynamic is supposed to work. You want to feel, unless you're like literally starting at the beginning of their friendship, you want their relationship to feel like they've been doing this for ages. Yeah, give me the domestic vibes, give me the vibes that they're used to this. They've been doing this for ages. And I like this because we especially get this in the opening, whenever they're hanging out at Baker Street. They're doing things together. It's just like stuff going here and there. It's very loosey-goosey, and I kind of like that. Also like together with their butler, which I think was cute, who's sort of the real MVP, I think in a way. And I just like it. I like how domestic it feels, how it doesn't feel exaggerated, like really just how it feels like we're in the space with the characters, we're hanging out. Watson is the trusty sidekick, but she knows her own stuff. She isn't a doctor in this case, which I think is understandable because they're not saying that she is Dr. Watson, but she's just a Watson, but she's still very much capable. We see that, like at the shooting gallery and everything. She also picks up some of the detective skills that Holmes has gotten her into. And I like it. Watson feels very much capable in this. There isn't maybe too much of a focus on Watson, and I would have liked maybe to see a bit more. Watson does get her moments where she shines, also stands up to Holmes, and we see her also getting involved in the shenanigans, which I like. We see that how she's capable, but in her own way, but doesn't outshine Holmes, who's still very much the star of the show, as Holmes should be in a Sherlock Holmes adaptation. As far as like the setting and the mystery and the case solving goes, it doesn't do anything like too outlandish. It feels very classic, like I say, especially like with the opening, with the client coming in and needing a case solved, and Holmes does it in a very Holmesian classic style, which I liked a lot. And we also get these little moments throughout the case and throughout the story Holmes deduces something about someone. We do get the classic interactions, you know, interviewing clients, interviewing people, looking for clues, using disguise to infiltrate a place. We do get all of the classic Holmesian elements in this. I like it. The mystery itself, nothing to write home about, since we know exactly what's going on. Like, since Lester is telling us his plan, he's telling the plan to the audience, we always know what's going on. We're basically just waiting for Holmes to pick up the clues to find out, oh, all of this is actually fake, which he kind of does, even though it feels a bit weird at the end, especially like when she comes into the police station after Lester has gotten kidnapped by the Spaniard. And it just kind of solves itself, apparently, in the background. Like, I'm assuming maybe the Spaniard gave himself up, or Holmes made him give himself up. That was kind of wishy-washy there at the end, but I guess it works because it gives us, like I said, a very, like I said during the commentary, a very nice little emotional conversation there at the end between the two characters, which you can interpret, again, in many different ways for the Sherlock Holmes character. And the story, nothing special, but I think it does a good job at hitting all the right points, hitting all the right spots for a Holmes adaptation, including all of the classic familiar elements that you would know as a reader from the original stories, or that you would just know from like general knowledge about Sherlock Holmes, how these things work out. And considering, you know, this is just like a small little 1980s short movie, I think this does a lot for Sherlock Holmes fans. And also, if you just watch it as a general viewer, I think there are a lot of the interesting themes here that you could talk about. So I did not expect this to be this interesting. Again, it feels very wacky and weird in many places. The musical numbers, a bit out of nowhere in some places. I kind of like it how they sort of introduce us to parts of the story or some characters, even though you're like, why are some of those songs even here? But sure, the Spaniard, bit weird. Why did it have to be this kind of guy? I don't know. It just is. But in a way, it works. It feels silly, but not too silly. Like I said, it takes it seriously, but not too seriously. And I think you can have a lot of fun with this, to kind of see how they interpret the characters, especially since they switch genders, which I always think is interesting, especially for like characters that have been established for so long to be a particular way, but then you do something differently with them, which is also something I really liked about Miss Sherlock, about that show. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this to you. Like I said, if you want to watch the film, I'll put the link to the film down in the description if you want to watch that for yourself after watching this. So I like this a lot. It was a very interesting international adaptation. I would watch that again. I feel like it's a nice, casual but interesting enough adaptation you can put on if you don't have a lot of time, or if you just want to have an interesting Sherlock Holmes movie for an afternoon. So my dearly beloved detective was a positive surprise for this Baker Street review. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you have any thoughts on the films I have, on the film I've talked about here, do tell me down in the comments below. If you were already familiar with the film, or if this was your first time hearing about it, do tell me down in the comments below. If you have any other suggestions for future Baker Street reviews, be it films, TV shows, video games, books, whatever, as long as it has Sherlock Holmes in it, I will take a look at it. So if you have any suggestions, put them down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done it already. And I'll see all of you very soon. Goodbye.